card using one of the characters in this Disney Classics cartridge. So the one that I thought I'd pick is from the Alice in Wonderland section. I'm going to be doing Cheshire Cat. I think it's a really fun character, and I thought that I'd use some sort of sentiment that says smile. Something what I've done is I've already loaded up my 2 mats, and the way that I've done this is I've gone through my cartridge here and I've looked at the layers that I've got to do and worked out my colours, obviously. But then what I've done is I've done the mat as I'm going to cut things out. So the first cuts I'm going to do is the non-shift key cuts, which are these first ones here, because it's easier then, because you can do repeat last all the time. If you go this one then shift, this one then shift, you can't hit the repeat last. Okay, so we're going to go over to the Cricut now and we're going to get cutting. Okay, so I've loaded my cartridge and I've put on my overlay. So then all we need to do next, obviously we need to switch it on, and then we're going to load our mat. Now I've got Basil cardstock and Coordinations cardstock on here, so I am going to do this all at maximum speed, maximum pressure, maximum blade depth, and load mat. So the first cut, and I want to do it I think at 5 inches, I'm hoping that will be okay. First cut I'm going to do is this one here, which is my main key. So it's just, all I've got here is my material saver on, or paper saver. I don't know whether it's called material saver on this one. Okay, so just looking for the Cheshire Cat, and it's this button here, which is number 10, so we press that. Wait for it to come in the screen. It'll take a bit of time because it's a little bit more complicated, and then press cut. Okay, so then we're going to the pink, sort of the salmony pink, and we're going to cut layer 1. So I'm just going to move my blade up. Whoops. And hit layer 1, repeat last. Okay, now I want to go back to the bottom of my mat, but not in this corner over here. I want to go to this part in the middle, at the top part of the mat, or the bottom of the mat, whichever way you want to call it, the other end anyway. So in order to do that, if you hit load mat, it would take you straight down to this corner here, but if you hit line return, it will take you to the next available cut at that end. Okay, and then it's taken us down this, we just need to go over a little bit. And then I want to hit the yellow for the eye, so that's layer 2, repeat last. And remember, you want all of this at 5 inches because these are all the layers, so it will automatically proportion this because you haven't hit the real dial size button. If you hit real dial size, then you'd get 5-inch eyes. If you haven't got the real dial size on, then it will do it it will cut it for the 5-inch fully made cat, so it will be probably like a 1/2-inch eye or whatever, so it's proportionate basically is all I'm trying to say. Okay, so is that one done? And then the last layer is on this non-shift key, and on this mat is layer 3, and again repeat last. And another thing, I think it's quite useful if you can, is for something as complicated as this, where you might have little bits, well not complicated, but with lots of layers, and you may have little pieces, like on this you're going to have lots of little stripes, then I think it's quite useful to have a separate mat, because while you're making your cat up, or whatever it is, it's quite handy to leave the pieces on there, because it kind of lays it out where you need them to be, so you can kind of see which piece comes next when you're sticking it down, and I just find it more helpful to leave it on the mat. Okay, so press cut. That's why I've loaded up 2 mats. Okay, and that's the last cut on this, so we're going to hit unload. I think you can just see there are different layers on that are cut separately. If you took these pieces off your mat and just laid them down ready to adhere to your cat when you got to it, it's quite likely these pieces are going to get muddled up and you're going to be thinking, well, which one of these stripes goes where? So that's why I find it more useful to leave it on the mat. Okay, so you've now taken my second mat, loading it, and now we want to hit Shift and the cat, take off our layer key, because we want to do none of the layers, we just want the first image here, which is the main image but shifted, and press cut. Okay, so then the next image is the white smiley teeth, so we're going to move our blade up, press layer 1, and then because we did shift and the cat before, and this is still a shift layer, we can just hit repeat last and it will bring up the correct image, because the repeat last is the cat shift, and then you're changing anything here that you need to by hitting the layer. So it remembers that it's cat and shift, or shift cat, and then you just pick which layer you want to pick to cut. Okay, and then again line return, move the blade across, and then the last layer we want shift. And repeat last. And cut. Okay, so that's all our cuts down, so we just unload the mat and then we'll go back to the table and start putting this together. Okay, so I've taken off all the excess card, and as I said, I left the pieces on here ready to make up my little cat. And the first piece we need, I'm going to put these to one side, the actual Cheshire Cat himself, this black piece here. And when you take the pieces off, you will need to be careful, because even at 5 inches some of them were quite small. I'm going to put on each piece by piece, nice and slowly. So the first bit I'm going to do is his little face and the little nose. And to be honest, I'm not quite sure what order we're supposed to be doing this in, if any. So at the moment I'm just following the layers, so it's sort of how I cut it. So I'm just going to take that. I'm going to use my Zig glue pen, and I'm just putting the glue on the back here so that all the pieces will stick down nicely. I'm using my tweezers because they are quite fine pieces, and I should have a piece of paper down there actually, that will help. What I find is, even though that's a craft mat, if I put a piece of paper with the bit that I'm working on, then when I put my element back in place, I'm not going to stick it to the glue, to the mat where I've just put all the glue down. And then the little nose. So then I just pop that back there, and then I can glue this like so. That's what I was meaning really. And then we pop his little nose in place. And it's quite simple to do because you've got all the lines, so you can see where it's meant to line up. And quite often you think, oh my goodness, that looks awful, but when you start putting it together, it kind of comes together quite well. Okay. And for things like this, the Zig I think is absolutely perfect, and it does also give you just a little bit of movement time as well. So if you don't get it on 100%, you've got that peeling. I actually found in the past I've left it a while and thought, still don't quite like that, and peeled it off, even though it's been a bit of a wait. So there we go. Okay, now we can do his little teeth. I thought this video we'd kind of focus on the cutting procedure and the putting together procedure, because I think quite often with my videos, not often, sometimes with my videos, I do a lot kind of the putting together part and don't really show you of the actual card, I mean, rather than the actual putting together of the elements. So I thought it would be just useful to see the actual, how you sort of do the cuts. This is a little ear, and by leaving it on the mat I was able to instantly identify that this was the right ear. If I'd have taken it off, I'd have been actually even wondering what the heck it was, let alone whether it was the right or the left ear. So that's one of the main sort of reasons really, and the same with like the stripes. I think that's going to be, would have been really difficult if I'd have pulled those off the mat. So that's that one done. I would have done a different card. I used this pink here, this salmon pink, wasn't, and this other one here, it was almost like, oh, and it was the coordinations card, and I found it's not cut as well as the basil because I think it's got like the surface on it, and so it's caught a little bit in places, which will be fine. It's not going to really show because we can kind of pop it down. But I think for something like this where it has got such tiny layers, I think I would stick with the basil or the American Crafts cardstock, because it doesn't really, I don't know if you can see, like on the white whiskers there, which really were meant to be holes, but you can see it's kind of just a little bit, little catches. So I will go around that with some pro markers and things, and that will just be fine when it's done. But it's obviously much nicer not to have to do that. I think, as I say, it's the coating, I assume it's like a coating that they do on the coordination, so that when you rub it away it brings the colour core through. Now I was asked by somebody in a question about the Imagine and the Expression, whether I found the Imagine was a better cut or not. To be honest, I find both cut exactly the same for me. I don't have any problems either way. I have noticed on a few people that sometimes with their Expression they're having to do like multi-cut and stuff. I don't know why, but I've never had that problem at all with mine. It always cuts, even quite heavy cardstock. Well, everything really that I've had to cut other than sort of chipboard, I've never had to do multi-cut or even deep cut blade or anything like that. So I don't know why that some people have that issue with it, but I haven't had that problem. And with my Imagine, I find it cuts just as beautifully, so no problem there at all either. Now this is just a little pause. Okay, we just put that one down there. That's a really little stripe, and this is where we can see how the shapes are there, because that's following the shape of the cat, so that really helps. Teeny bit which I need to put on, and then there's the big stripes, which will be a lot easier to do. I'm not quite sure where this tiny bit goes. Okay, so now we're getting on the bigger stripes, so that's a bit easier to do. And just sort of follow the lines that are there for you, because that helps you for when you're putting the next pieces in as well. And then all I'm doing is I'm just taking, if you look at this, to my cat, I'm just taking the next stripe along, because I know then that that's the one that goes there, and then as I get here you can see that one is obviously going to be in the tail. Last of this pink, and then we're going to do the other pink, the bright pink. There we go. And now we've got this pink here to do, so that's going to really lift. We're working on 3 more pieces to do, and then we're going to start, just tidy that up, and then we'll put our card together. And then our final piece, da da da. Okay, drum roll. There we go. And there he is. Isn't he cute? I just love that. Okay, so I'm just going around these sections here where it's had the little white pieces. Quite nice, giving it that extra bit of dimension. Okay, and that one, by the way, was baby pink. I'm now just going to go for something a bit darker, just to give a bit more. And then going back to my, going back to my baby pink again, and then just taking that and using it to blend that in a little bit, so you don't have this just awfully dark line. And I have to say, on the camera at the moment it looks a heck of a lot darker than it does in life, because and also it is going to dry. And then just on these paler pink stripes, just adding a bit of shadowing. On this dark, sorry, that pink, by the way, that was Blossom. This one here, as you can see, is a well-loved one, and one I use a lot, and it's called Maroon. So we're just going to use that. And then the last one I'm going to do is this very bright pink here, and I think I'm going to use the same colour again as I did on the dark colour there. I'm just going to be very cautious though. Just going to do a small amount like this, very carefully, and then I'm going to use another colour just to blend that through, just a soft colour. And it's going to be this lovely blossom again. And don't leave it too long before you do the next colour, because otherwise your colour has evaporated and you won't be able to blend it properly, because it's kind of already started to dry. So don't do like all of one colour and then move and then come back to try and blend. Okay, so we're going to leave that to dry. You can see it's a little bit dark around his whiskers, and that will dry. I actually did try pink wire to make some little whiskers, but it just didn't look right. It just looked like the cat had his nose pierced, and I don't think that was in the storyline. Cheshire Cat with a nose piercing, so I took that out and put it just to how it was. Lovely natural craft cardstock, which is 5 by 7, and obviously folded it in half. And I've got this piece of Anna Griffin paper, which is also 5 by 7, and it's from the Fifi and Fido collection, and has some really cool stuff in there. Okay, so I just really liked that colour. This piece of ribbon, which I'm going to just put around here with some tape, like so. So just doing the cheetah method, and then I'm going to place that down there. So actually the only time you're going to see the craft cardstock is when you open it. So I'm just going to get my ATG and then just pop this in place. Like so, and then using my Pinflay glue gel, I'm going to put some glue gel on my cat, just a few blobs. I'm going to pop him here. So that's just giving it some shape. So you can see it's flatter there than it is from that side. And you can see if you look at his tail, how it's popping down at the edge. Okay, then I want to put on my little piece of ribbon. Now I want it down here, which is not hugely easy to get to. I want to put my sentiment up the top there, so okay, then the last thing I want to do on here, put on my little sentiment, and all I want to put on here is the word smile. Now I've got some stickers here, and these are stickers. I think I might have to use some glue to stick them down. Okay guys, so here's the finished card. I just glued these stickers down because there wasn't a lot of stick left on them for some reason, and I've moved my bow slightly because I preferred it slightly higher. And I hope you enjoyed watching this. I hope you liked the card, and I'd love to hear your comments, and I'll see you all again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye!